What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm back. I want to go do a little research and say, fuck it, I'm gonna drop another video. But um, I talked about how pretty much we've been fighting back for so long and how we was confused about who we really are. And since if we put ourselves in a native perspective and that's who we were, the Hebos, um, that ended in 1855, kind of like the last revolution that we stopped off of. But it was plenty more things that happened all the way up into the 1900s. Man, it just go to show that we've been fighting for I don't know how long, and the stories we've been told is for a reason. Like if we didn't, like we learned about MLK, we learned about being peaceful. But if we would have learned about all these things and all this unrest, we would have started building for ourselves. We wouldn't have trusted this white world. Like we would have realized a long time ago that this world's not really for us. That they're portraying like they right now all the advertisement is for hippity hop like black people. Like it just they want you to come buy their shit because we spend the most right now. It's like the Black Panther movie. Like they know that shit was gonna sell like a motherfucker because we've been spending so much money. I talk about us spending $1 trillion. And that was almost 2 years ago when I talked about this. So who knows what we're spending right now? And to really just think about it, they just capitalizing on us. And if we wouldn't really allow this to happen, if we realize what's really been going on, and to kind of start off just about how much. Just talking about finances, the Tulsa race riots was in May 31st to June 1st, and that happened in 1921. They literally came through and just started going off on people. Like black people was in they normal, what would you call it, normal settlement, just chilling, doing their shit. And they've been there for a while because I already talked about the shit and how the natives settled and became civilized and all the shit after they beat the Creole people in Oklahoma. And after shit, that was in, 100 years later, shit, they got a black market building and thriving and shit. They decided, like, fuck it, the only way we can really fuck over them is by ending this shit. So they came in, they fucked us up, and they literally bombed 35 blocks. They used helicopters and all type of shit. And like I said, this was 1921. They was using helicopters from the old war. I think it was the World War One. Did that happen yet? Or was it? It might have been the Vietnam War, I believe. I don't know. I might be off completely, but it was one of the wars they said they used it from, and pretty much like they destroyed it. 800 people was in a hospital, and they even arrested 6,000 other people. It's estimated 39 to 300 people died that day, and it was mostly black people. It was a few white people that died because they were fighting before they started getting bombed. Like they fought for like a couple of hours before they started bombing it. And I believe they bombed another place too, and it wasn't just in Tulsa, but like just how people was migrating to Florida way before then, people was migrating to Tulsa, and this was right around the time that the black market was. I mean, not the black market. It should call it the black market. Their market was crashing and shit like that, and they were going into depression. And a lot of the reason why is they wanted us back in their shit. That was a part of them ready to integrate us. They was like shit. Every time we try to do it on their own, they like fuck it, so they eventually was like, let's just integrate with them, just like they did. They finally went with the union approach instead of the Windsor Units approach type shit. To be honest with you, and I talked about Houston having race riots. They had a race riot in 1971. That was August 23rd, and yeah, I guess it was World War One because the Negro police, this was they called them. Well, they was from World War One, and it was them versus the police in the area. And they pretty much the melanated police. I mean military, and they was a Negro military police force also. But they were just mostly from World War One. They pretty much fought against each other, and it was just that because they were tired of being treated like shit after they fought for this country type shit. It was one of the same old stories till this day that we get how people come back to America and still feel like they treated like shit, but after they fight for this country, but 13 people had died. Supposedly, it was only one melanated person and 19 wounded overall, and it was supposedly 5 melanated. But after is where it got crazy. 19 people was hanged and 53 people was sentenced to life. And we can already assume who did that. I mean, who did that time and who got hung. It's not funny, but it is funny because it's like, bro, we realizing this shit, bro. Y'all really hid this shit from us. Like, after we fought and fought for our actual rights, like, bro, y'all was like, all right, well, it's still our country. Let's just hang them. I mean, like I said, get rid of their kids. And, bro, well, how they get rid of their kids is in the sense of if you watch your father get hanged, you watch your father do time after he ain't fought for this country. You see him as this military hero. If his life is just taken away that easy, why would you ever fight against this country? And that's the way that they did it mentally more than they was, even though they did hang us, so that shit was still mentally and physically, to be honest with you, because that was still in the Willie Lynch era of 1917. We can go to the Harlem race riots, was in 1935. That started because a woman and her, I believe, boyfriend got into it with a police officer, and she was supposedly pregnant. And a rumor got out, or was it? We don't know if it's a rumor or not. I'm not gonna say it's a rumor because I wasn't there, and I'm not trusting really any of these sites. I'm just going off the basic information they gave. But they said that it started because the rumor was the police beat and killed a pregnant lady. And supposedly around 4,000 people ended up rioting and shit like that. And that was in 1935. 1906, September 22nd, Atlanta race riots. It was a white mob that attacked blacks, just went around attacking them. It lasted 2 days. They killed from 25 to 100 people. And, it doesn't really say why they did it. Just like the Tulsa race riots, it doesn't necessarily say why they just did it. It wasn't like these black people was going around fucking up their shit. We had our own communities and shit like that. And I had a picture on my phone. We had like over 800 businesses or 600 businesses. We had over like 30 to 50 buses. We had like 20 different airlines. It was some shit, man. We had a lot of different shit. And they pretty much destroyed all that through the 1950s and probably got rid of the last of it by 1960s. And shit, that's when MLK come around with his piece. And you can see where the two girls get blown up. And he still like, not the two girls, the four girls get blown up. And in Birmingham, I believe, when he was just still on that peaceful stuff. He was like, if any blood gonna be shed, it's gonna be our blood because we're not gonna fight back type shit. And that's crazy to even think about when we've been going through all these different fights, and all of a sudden this dude want to be peaceful. Like where we've been, I've skipped over from the 1965s to the 1900s and just got to the 1917s. But it's like, bro, where has we seen peace? Like, we've been fighting for our own freedom, and even when we decide to stop fighting against them, bro, they still coming at us. So it's like, what are we talking about here? Atlanta race riots, I said the white mob, and then there was a Philadelphia race riots where 340 people was injured, 700 was arrested. It's just so many different shit. And this was one of the most deadly ones. The Detroit riots was in 1967. 43 people was dead, 342 injured. It was the blacks versus police initially, then the National Guard came in, and the National, like, it was a real fight. Like, they had over 1,000 National Guard people in Detroit fighting against these melanated people. And it just go to show, bro, we weren't even, bro, to say that we wasn't organized, like I said earlier, bro, we still was going off on these people. Like, from when we was actually having rebellions and was structured, they couldn't do, they had to exile us, and then they had to they end up separating each other. Like, we end up fucking their whole mentality up, bro. They had to come with a whole nother approach. And even to this day, like, they had to go to the liberal approach because the only thing you can do is be nice to us now because, bro, nice to us and trick us in this sense. But, like, that shit's dying out too, bro, because we catching on to this shit. We talking about the old ways and how they manipulated us and showing where we came from and that we didn't come from this weak-minded, and these niggas is not as dominant and strong as they say. They changed a couple of their books, and through these last couple of years, because when even Rockefeller invested into the education system, 1960s, 1950s, bro, this last era with Martin Luther King, bro, this is the era they really got us just completely forgetting about what the fuck we came from. Even if we didn't know our history past the natives and shit, because you can get some of your grannies that say that they natives and shit. Even if we don't remember, even if that's the far as we remember back, you still remember the riots we had. Like, our grannies still remember the riots. They grannies still remember that shit. But it was like, even though they remember it, MLK was telling them to forget about that shit. And some people stayed with Malcolm X, but they killed him off. So it kind of killed his voice in a sense because people started to fear that shit. And people really started to forget when we started to go through their school systems because, like I said, we were teaching ourselves for so long before we integrated. And when did we integrate? In when did we integrate? 1980s, I believe. We started to integrate. So we was teaching ourselves all the way up until then, really. So we knew our history to some point. Like, we knew that we had to build for ourselves. We knew we had to cultivate for ourselves until we got into that school system. And then we was fried. But we still not fried because we still waking up. It's just a sense, just a sense of term. But in the Detroit riot, the National Guard, it was 16 of them killed, and they ended up having 493 wounded, and it was 23 black people killed and over 696 people wounded. That's why I said the numbers was different through different sites that I went to, but the killed number almost matched up, but the injured was totally different. And I'm sure people got arrested and shit like that, and I ain't really get into it because it's like, bro, you can get into these things yourself. You shouldn't really need somebody to describe every fucking scenario to you because this shit is really self-explanatory, bro. And if you'd be like, why I'm not talking about stuff in the 1980s? Why I'm not talking about stuff in the 1990s? Because we should be able to remember that shit at least. Like, we know most of that history. Like, we seen the shit that's happened in 2000. We seen the shit that's still happening today. We have niggas still getting killed, crazy or not. Like, I say the shit that I say is fake. Even if it's fake or not, they're still putting that shit out in our face to show that we can be killed by them in the sense of, bro, they want us to still fear them, but there's no reason to, bro, because, I mean, we literally only fear them because we rely on their system, to be honest with you. If we got out of their system, bro, and we started building for ourselves, like, it's just like your parents, you don't really care about what your parents say to you because when you start living on your own, you get out their house because what can they tell you? You paying your bills, they will critique you the first couple of years when you get out the house, but you can still be like, well, I mean, you can listen, but you can still be like, bro, I got this is my own thing, and that's what happened with a lot of your. This is what has to happen with us. We have to break away to realize we don't have to listen to our parents. But right now, they like, we in their house, you gotta listen to their rules type shit. And we really don't, because, I mean, we grown as fuck, but, hey, we sleep out here. We not trying to build for ourselves, bro, so we gonna keep following their ways. And I'm really just being childish bringing it up like that. But, I mean, it makes sense, to be honest. But, yeah, man, I really don't know what else to talk about. I talked about it before. Like, America has been in war for over 200 years since it's been in existence since 1776. And to say that, when I was going through all of them, most of them was internal wars. They wasn't wars against other people. They end up being, like in the 1900s, they started going into other countries and started invading people. But before then and still then, there was a lot of shit going in. A lot of those wars and battles was like infighting and shit. And a lot of the shit with the Indians and shit like that. And, bro, it gets so crazy. That's why I just shout out Dan Calloway, because they really have the heart to break down what this white man has done. It's like, I really start getting mad. So I just stick to the spiritual and, try to talk about that. But a lot of people I fuck with do need physical examples. But I'm spiritually just trying to, help people figure shit out. And I'm going to stay sticking to that. But the Kanye West shit been out, so I decided to dive into it too. And since I have been dabbling into it, and it does actually affect the spirit hard, because a lot of people, like I said, is stuck on their Harriet Tubman and run away from their problems because we used to run away from Master. That's what they taught us, bro. If we seen Django, bro, if we all was taught the Django mentality from birth, like, bro, what would we be scared of? This nigga was taken away from his wife. He got her back, did everything he had to do, and then I talk about how he really is Bass Reeves and the things that he did, like, to come up. Like, he had a similar story in the sense of he broke away from slavery and shit. It's like, bro, if we learned these Nat Turner stories, if we learned these stories, all these different stories that I still haven't dove into, and I really don't even care to anymore because I just know now. Like, I'm at peace with that shit. Like, it's like, this today was enough to, like, if anybody want to talk about it, I can explain it to you, bro, but like, it's simple to me now. Like, I knew we wasn't these docile people, bro, because I'm not a docile person, bro. I never let anybody just treat me any type of way, bro, and, like, nobody. Like, and to think that I came from a line that did that is crazy. Like, I just couldn't. It didn't vibe with me, bro. But like I said, it does tie into the spirit, because you have more faith in where you come from, and it helps you be more confident in yourself. And a lot of people do need that. I needed that. I need it sometimes still. I mean, but Yeah, man, I'm up out of here. I'm just talking now. Peace.